Ethan, KCRG? Where's Pat? Tony, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Ethan, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's been relayed. Thank you. I used the words lingering when I did this, so I'm gonna wrap it up the room. So
Okay.
I hope you're
Thank you so much.
happy to do it though.
It would have been really challenging, all those things at once. So.
Yes.
Ethan and Tony holding.
31.
She's coming.
Well, good morning. We'll go ahead and get started. We'll start with an update on vaccine, and then we'll move into the Governor's Economic Recovery Advisory Board announcement that we're excited to roll out today. So nearly 276,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccine have been administered in Iowa since December 14th. More than 137,000 individuals have received their first dose, and nearly 70,000 others have received both doses and are now fully vaccinated. We're making progress, but I recognize that the vaccine process isn't as fast or as easy as many of us would like it to be. While vaccine supply continues to remain low and will for some time, we must ensure that when shipments are received, they're getting to the providers as quickly as possible and into the arms of Iowans. In some counties, our vaccine administration rate is extremely high. In fact, in Polk County, they are turning around nearly 100% of their weekly vaccine allocation before their next shipment arrives. And that takes a high level of planning and coordination, and I want to thank them for their hard work that they're putting in to make that happen. But there are also counties with administration rates much lower than what we would anticipate. And so this week, my team and the team at the Department of Public Health have been working with counties across the state to identify and understand barriers that may be slowing down the vaccination process and developing plans on how we can start to resolve those issues. And I expect to see positive results soon. We all want the same thing, and so we need to figure out how we can work together to make that happen. I'm also aware that many Iowans are frustrated by the scheduling process and struggling to make an appointment. I understand how disappointing it is when you're finally eligible to get the vaccine and you can't get through to schedule an appointment. But I'm asking Iowans to please keep in mind that while vaccine supply is limited, appointments will also be limited. The best way to understand how or when to schedule an appointment with a provider near you is to check their website first, and you can find those links at coronavirus.iowa.gov. Of course, not everyone has access to a computer or internet service or choose to use them. And to assist Iowans age 65 and older, we're partnering with the Area Agency on Aging to provide assistance. They'll be answering questions, assisting with scheduling, coordinating transportation for older Iowans who are homebound, and we're going to provide information on how to access this help later this week. Well, that's tomorrow. But right, Kelly? Okay, tomorrow. But there are many more Iowans who would also benefit from help navigating the vaccination process. Today, the state is issuing an RFP for solutions to quickly stand up a centralized vaccine registration and referral system. Ideally, it would create a one-stop shop where Iowans could provide their information and be matched with vaccine providers near them. So there's still a lot to be done to make this possible, but the first step begins today to identify a partner, and we will keep you updated or posted on that progress. In the meantime, please be patient. I know it's not easy. Vaccine production will increase, and we'll begin to receive more doses, but it's still going to take some time. So we're going to continue to work on that, and we'll continue to improve the processes to make sure that we're getting vaccines administered in a timely manner. You know, it's hard to believe that about this time last year, the Phase 1 China trade agreement had been signed and USMCA was on its way to being ratified. Iowa's economy was roaring. We had one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country. Incomes were going up, and our fiscal health was strong. None of us could have imagined or predicted the chain of events that were just about to take place: a worldwide pandemic, civil unrest, a drought, and a derecho. And despite all we've been through, I have seen the best of Iowans at every turn. Our response and recovery has everything to do with the tenacity of our people, the relationships that we've built, and our ability to come together for the greater good. From the earliest days of the pandemic, we took decisive and targeted actions to protect the health and safety of Iowans, and also took critical steps to protect Iowa workers, businesses, and the economy that supports them. We've learned a lot over the course of the last 11 months. And you know, Iowa's success has always been about turning obstacles into opportunities. The post-COVID world won't be the same as the pre-COVID world, and it shouldn't. And it's why in June, to ensure that our state would be well-positioned to recover and grow, I established the Governor's Economic Recovery Advisory Board. It's chaired by Ben McLean, the CEO of Ruan Transportation, and a 15-member board and 350 working members who volunteered their time and talents to meet a pretty aggressive charge to be bold, innovative, and direct about the challenges facing our economy. Over a period of just 100 days, the board and its working groups assessed the economic impact of COVID-19 on our businesses and on our workforce and the livelihoods of everyday Iowans. They identified opportunities that would ensure our future prosperity is widespread and reaches all Iowans and all communities, including those who too often feel left out even when times are good. Together, they've tackled some of the most challenging issues of our time, brought a new perspective to issues that we've been working on, and they worked diligently to seek public input to ensure Iowans had a voice in the process. It was an ambitious task, but one that helped really set the foundation for my legislative agenda this year. Today, I'm really pleased to have 3 board members with me. I have Ben, the CEO of Ruan, of course, who chaired the board, Barbara Sonecker, Executive Vice President of Sioux Line Chamber of Commerce, and Emily Smith, General Counsel of Sioux Cup Manufacturing. So you're going to be hearing from the 3 of them in just a few minutes, but I do want to take a moment to recognize the others who weren't able to join us today. And that included Robin Anderson, State Chief Economist, Mary Andringa, Vermeer Corporation Board Chair, Nick Bodish, President and CEO of Elite Octane, Tim Bauer, President of Clint's Manufacturing, Randy Edeker, Chairman, CEO, and President of Hy-Vee, Rosalind Fox, Factory Manager at John Deere, Suresh Gunasekharan, CEO of UIHC, Dan Houston, Chairman, President, and CEO of Principal Financial Group, AJ Law, CEO of Bush Corporation, Megan McKay, President of Peachtree Brewing Company, Adam Wright, former CEO of Mid-American Energy, and Diane Young, owner and director of technical services of Foundation Analytical Lab. I'd like to thank each of them for their leadership and expertise in this process, and I know that Iowa's recovery will be even stronger for the role that this board has played in it. And now I'd like to invite Ben to share some of the top recommendations from the board's final report, which is available online today. Ben?
Thank you, Governor. Thanks for the opportunity to serve on the Economic Recovery Advisory Board and to be here today as we release our final report. Before talking a bit about the report and the process we used to create it, I would like to share my sincere gratitude as well for the other board members that led this effort along with me. It's been an honor to collaborate with all of you in serving the state of Iowa as we work to emerge from this pandemic. The governor tasked the 15 of us board members with identifying innovative policy solutions and other ideas that would create jobs, strengthen our economy, and make Iowa a better place to live for all Iowans. From the very onset, our board felt strongly that we would include and engage in our process every Iowan that was willing to join us. And we cast a very wide net. More than 350 volunteers from across Iowa joined with our board to form 7 working groups that would identify, discuss, debate, and formulate the recommendations of greatest impact. We challenged each group to be bold and reimagine ways to tackle persistent problems our state faces, while ensuring that equality for every Iowan was a guiding part of all of our efforts. The working groups did an outstanding job. In addition to their own contributions, they gathered extensive feedback from Iowans through listening sessions, online submissions, and other conversations. Thank you to all of you that contributed. As you will see in our report, we sought to recognize you and include your names to recognize your great, great work. And from all of these efforts, our board was able to select 18 of the recommendations that we deemed the top most impactful recommendations that would enable Iowa to emerge stronger from the pandemic. These recommendations fall into the following themes. First, make Iowa a global leader in broadband. Next, empower our workforce by caring for our youngest Iowans. Next, create an environment to attract and retain Iowans. Modernize healthcare in Iowa. Boost K through 12 achievement and career readiness. Invest in manufacturing innovation. And finally, elevate government efficiency efforts. Let me address three of those themes briefly in some of the recommendations before concluding my remarks. First, making Iowa a global leader in broadband is foundational to many of our other recommendations. The pandemic underscored for all of us that reliable, accessible, high-speed broadband is not just a luxury. This is critical infrastructure. We recommend building broadband access statewide by 2025. This will require significant public and private investment, but our connectivity working group was so effective in highlighting the importance of this infrastructure across many areas: new business startups, high-tech jobs, manufacturing, agriculture, education, healthcare. Over these last months, the broad reach of telehealth has been so important for many of us. And certainly broadband is important to the future of many local economies across Iowa. In addition to broadband infrastructure, our report calls for Iowa to attract and retain Iowans by addressing widespread demand for quality, affordable housing. Today, many Iowa communities face a housing shortage, which naturally leads to challenges with housing expenses. For instance, almost 40% of our renters and 16% of our homeowners in Iowa pay more than 30% of their income on housing. Obviously, we want to enact policies that decrease those numbers and certainly don't increase them. And so investing in housing in Iowa can aid in stimulating our recovery from the pandemic in the short term, but it will also support our ability to attract and retain residents to Iowa. Our report contains a number of recommendations to increase the housing supply and provide assistance to Iowans burdened by housing costs, particularly low-income families and seniors. A final theme that I'd like to highlight. Our board concluded that we must create a more sustainable system of childcare in our state. This isn't just an urgent need for Iowa families right now, and it certainly is, but this is about empowering Iowa's workforce into the future. We're a national leader in Iowa in the share of families with both parents working, 76%. But 23% of Iowans live in areas of Iowa where there is a shortage of healthcare providers that are licensed. In fact, child care is more expensive for the average Iowa family than is their housing. So among the recommendations to confront this challenge, our education working group recommended continuing universal state preschool programming while also providing more targeted programming for children who lack opportunities at home and need more support. The goal is to increase the percentage of 4-year-old children who are able to attend preschool to 90% by 2024. To develop all of these recommendations in our report, our process harnessed the collective input of so many Iowans across the state. They worked diligently to study and formulate the most important recommendations for Iowa's future. They should all be proud of their work, and especially to see their recommendations resonate with the governor and our legislature on both sides of the aisle. This endeavor has never been about Democratic or Republican solutions. In fact, this report is about Iowan solutions. It was created by a group of Iowans who've demonstrated that we do our very best work, and our state can thrive when we come together, when we collaborate to create solutions and define our future success. I hope that you'll agree with me on that last point especially, and I encourage you to take the time, read our report. It's released today. It can be found at the governor's website, which is governor.iowa.gov/GERAB-report. Thank you very much.
Ben, thank you for your willingness to lead this effort and your exceptional leadership. It's really been a pleasure working with you and my team, and I look forward to seeing these initiatives through to implementation. So again, I just want to say thank you. Next, I want to introduce Barbara Sloniker. Barbara is joining us from the greater Siouxland area to talk about the positive impact the board's recommendations will have on growing our workforce. Barbara?
Thank you, Governor. To begin, I really would like to thank our governor for her leadership, for having the vision to convene the Economic Recovery Advisory Board and holding us to the task of coming up with bold ideas to move Iowa forward. As a native Iowan who graduated from Iowa State and chose to raise my family here, the northwest corner of the state remains my home, and I'm committed to helping see Iowa continue to prosper. It's been an honor to serve with this group of distinguished CEOs representing companies from across the state, every corner, companies of all sizes. For my part, I served as a representative of the nearly 1,400 business members of the Siouxland Chamber of Commerce here in Sioux City. The work of our advisory board was very intense. We had very spirited discussions, and a wealth of ideas and information was shared. The board members worked very diligently and with the confidence that all of our proposals that we generated would be evaluated thoroughly, and those that with the most merit would be implemented. One theme that continually emerged from the dialogue was the need to comprehensively address issues related to Iowa's labor force. These challenges were highlighted during the pandemic when businesses and companies were forced to reinvent how they actually did business. And knowing that our people are truly our best asset and that Iowans really do want to work and contribute, the board was compelled to find innovative ways to ensure multiple paths to success. As we focused on workforce, two areas consistently resurfaced: the access to quality, affordable childcare, and the availability of workforce housing. So let's begin with the top-ranked recommendation, which was to develop a comprehensive strategy to address Iowa's childcare issues. Employers have informed us that expanded access to childcare is critical to building their skilled workforce, yet working parents often don't have that viable option to where they can be sure their children are in a safe, secure environment. In our region here in Siouxland, and this includes Woodbury, Sioux, Clay, Plymouth, and Buena Vista counties, we've seen a drop of 31% in the number of available child care programs since 2015. Meanwhile, there's also been a 10% increase over the last 5 years in the weekly cost for an infant in a child development home, and a 16% increase in the cost for an infant at a licensed center. Creative ideas utilizing public and private partnerships also emerged as one of the recommendations. Ideas such as employer incentives for offering some type of child care assistance. As noted earlier, though, access to daycare is not the only barrier to workforce. The need for affordable workforce housing also ranks very high with our advisory board. Affordable housing remains at a premium, and a specific recommendation from the board is to expand the workforce housing tax credit. Each year, the tax credit allocations are consumed before all projects can be served, creating a backlog. Another recommendation was to create a new state housing tax credit program for low-income housing. Here in Sioux City, the Housing Trust Fund assists low-income homeowners and renters to make needed repairs to their homes. Since 2006, this program has invested nearly $7 million into our community. Outside the city limits, SIMCO oversees the owner-occupied housing repair and rehab program, which also has a similar mission. Transforming underutilized buildings such as churches and schools into affordable housing was a third recommendation from this group. A great example of this in Sioux City is the Aberdeen Apartments, formerly known as Central High School, which was recently converted into low-income housing with a capital investment of over $11 million. In addition, we've also had multiple elementary schools converted into housing. Finally, encouraging the use of public and private partnerships to create workforce housing while leveraging the advantages of both is recommended. Again, I'm very proud to have served on the Governor's Economic Recovery Advisory Board, and I'm eager for the implementation of some of these bold ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara, and thank you to you and your team for the work that you do to ensure that Iowa is a destination for businesses and careers. So we appreciate your input, and thank you for participating today to highlight a couple of areas that you had the opportunity to work on. Finally, I am pleased to welcome Emily Smith from Sukup Manufacturing, whose grain bins dot the landscape of rural Iowa. Emily's background in ag manufacturing and her deep family roots in farming means she knows what rural Iowa needs to thrive. So Emily, we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Governor, for the opportunity to serve on the Economic Recovery Advisory Board and for including rural Iowa in the conversation. Many people would associate rural Iowa with the agriculture industry, and they're mostly right. What might surprise people is how technology forward many ag products are today. Grain carts that drive themselves and grain dryers that can be controlled with a text message need reliable, high-speed internet to function. These incredible innovations can allow farmers to be the most productive they have ever been, but broadband is necessary to put these innovations to work. Principal CEO Dan Houston told me a great story about visiting his cousin in Crawford County when he experienced the challenges of getting online in parts of rural Iowa. He had access to a signal from a grain bin of a neighbor who has a dish connecting off another satellite tower just to get connected. We know that farmers can innovate solutions under nearly any circumstances, but broadband will only make their jobs easier. Manufacturing, like our 600-employee company in north central Iowa, also depends on connectivity. Digital manufacturing can dramatically increase efficiency, but not without broadband. Connectivity is also critical as our secondary schools and community colleges train the next generation of tech-savvy manufacturing workers. Because manufacturing is Iowa's top sector, just imagine how production, jobs, and economic activity would boom if we had high-speed internet in every corner of the state. This has never been more apparent than in the year 2020. Here at Sukup, we sent more than 70% of our professional employees remote in late March. We wanted to do that what was best for the employees' safety, and the transition was successful. Broadband will only create and accelerate more opportunities all over Iowa, but especially in rural areas. Connectivity touches many other important facets of rural communities. One example I will share is back in 2018, we made the decision to create an on-site health clinic at our manufacturing facility. As a family-owned and operated company, we are proud to be nimble and quickly implementing our plans, but something that slowed us down was taking 8 months to access a fiber line just 500 yards away. We needed the fiber line for optimal connectivity and integration with our provider servers. Having broadband in place would have allowed more healthcare options and removed roadblocks. In a town and community of 1,200 Iowans, that would mean a lot. I've given some examples of where broadband is a success for rural Iowans and some examples of where there are still gaps. Broadband will provide needed connections at rural businesses, farms, manufacturing companies, and schools, all of which are the key components of thriving Iowa communities. If increased access to broadband or any of the ideas we've discussed today will make a positive difference in your community, we encourage you to contact your local legislator and tell them your story. Thanks for your time, and let's keep Iowa moving.
Thanks, Emily. Thanks so much for joining us today, and I could not agree more. It's time that every corner of the state, from our urban centers to our most remote rural areas, has the quality broadband connections necessary to compete and succeed. So thank you very much. Again, I want to thank each of you for joining me today and for your willingness to step up and serve Iowans during this critical time. It's greatly appreciated. You know, as Ben mentioned, you can read more about the board's recommendations in the full report at governor.iowa.gov/GERAB.report. Iowa's coming back, and we're coming back strong. We're moving ahead with hope and confidence, and we're tackling big issues like those you heard about today that will truly set Iowa on a solid path of economic prosperity for years to come. We still have a lot of work ahead of us, including the monumental effort to vaccinate Iowans, but with each step, we're moving beyond the pandemic and blazing a bold trail to brighter days ahead. In closing, I want to thank you, The people of Iowa, you are the ones who have made our recovery possible. Your hard work, determination, and grit, the kindness that you've given to your friends and neighbors, even strangers who were in need. It's not lost on me why Iowa is in such a strong position as we continue to recover from the pandemic. It's the strength of our people. It's the strength of our people. We've been in this together from the start, and I know that we'll finish strong together. So let's stay focused on the goal and be patient until we get there. The end is in sight, and every day we're another step closer. So thank you again, and with that, we'll take your questions.
Governor, Republican legislators are having sticker shock at your broadband proposal, and there's also reluctance among Republican legislators for your education proposal on what you call school choice. Mm-hmm. How will you convince legislators to change their minds on those two issues, if at all?
Well, we will, and they are, and it's just, by presenting them with the facts, Kay, sitting down and walking through with them how we are proposing to fund the broadband build-out. In my budget, I recommended $150 million, over 3 years, and that will allow us to leverage millions of dollars in private sector funding. We've also taken advantage of CARES funding that has come into the state, so we'll be able to stack the funding options. And as we learn more about what some of the options are from the federal government, that could impact what the ask is for year 2 and 3. But we need to be bold. We need to be aggressive. We're starting at a deficit. We're starting in a position that's not competitive with many of our other states. And so we're going to have to be aggressive, and we're going to have to be bold to hit what I believe we need to do to be competitive as a state and succeed. Every governor, contiguous governor and every governor across the state is going to be upping their request for funding to go into broadband. And so in order to be competitive, we've got to move with that. But again, we'll walk through how we're financing that. It's doable. It makes sense. We're taking advantage of some one-time money that's coming into the state that allows us to do that. And we're not putting that into ongoing expenses. Instead, we're putting it into infrastructure that will benefit Iowans, manufacturers, farming. I mean, you've heard the whole list, and it really will provide some equity to every single corner of the state. Same thing applies with the Students First Act that I put forward. There is a lot of misinformation out there, and every day we're disputing what those myths are and providing facts to legislators. It's reasonable, it's balanced, and we believe it's the right thing to do, especially after what we've seen take place and the impact that the pandemic has had on our students over this past year. So we're going to continue to educate and update and reach out to legislators to help answer any questions that they may have and to bring them on board. It's early in the session, it's part of the process, and we're ready to go.
Governor, at the beginning, you acknowledged the frustration that some people have with the vaccine shortage and just trying to get an appointment.
Yeah.
Perhaps the benefit of these live news conferences is we're getting questions in as people are watching these at home.
Yep.
Some people would like for you to address the timing of this move to get a website. So since we started vaccinating people about 2 months ago, why the effort now to do a website, and can you give them any kind of timetable about how long till that thing gets going?
Yeah, I think part of the problem, Dave, is that, we just have such a limited supply, and what we've seen other states experience is they've gone ahead and opened up the scheduling process, and then what happens is people really do get their hopes up, and then they're being canceled 2 and 3 times. And so in order to try to avoid that with the limited supply that we have coming in, we've tried to manage that through our local public health. We've tried to work with our providers that are partners throughout this. Next week, we'll start the retail pharmacy provider portion, which will bring Hy-Vee and CPESN into the mix. So right now, Hy-Vee will be able to enhance their website, but same thing. They have a limited supply. They didn't want the individuals that they were going to be able to provide the vaccine for to not get their hopes up and then to have those canceled. And so we're trying to manage the amount and trying to put strategies in place so that when those do continue to increase, we'll be able to streamline the position. You have other states that are starting to move in this direction too. So other states have done it. We believe it'll be a relatively quick turnaround, and we'll be in a good position to really expedite, streamline, and help Iowans maneuver through scheduling and getting a vaccine.
We'll do one on the phone. There's a couple
Oh, yes, thank you very much, Governor. So my question is, I see that the CDC report shows that Iowans given their first dose per 100,000 is still the third lowest rate in the nation. So I'm wondering if you could explain why we're not doing comparatively better with other states.
So part of it is, we've been asking the same question. We've been reaching out to providers all week, to our counties to understand what the barriers are. But we're still, from the number of doses that are being allocated, we're still 47th in the country. The per capita, and administered, we're at 46th. We're averaging about 60% in getting the vaccines administered, and that's not where we need to be. We want to do better. We know we can do better, and so what we've done is we've reached out to our counties and to our providers. We're going to put some new metrics in place. We're going to eliminate a lot of the uncertainty that they've been dealing with. So again, it goes back to Dave's question. They're hesitant to schedule appointments when they're not sure if they're going to get their allocation next week, because it's been, that's been a variable from the federal administration as well. So they've guaranteed us a certain number of vaccines for the next 3 weeks. So we're taking that certainty and we're letting our local providers know this is what you can count on for the next 3 weeks. So get those. Get Iowans scheduled, get them vaccinated, because you've got another round coming in next week. So the more certainty that we can provide them, I think you're going to start to see the percentages go up. So we're going to be watching it closely, and as I indicated, we're going to be putting some new metrics in place so we can really get the throughput where we need it to be. I talked to General Perna last week. I questioned the allocation again that Iowa is getting and where we're ranking. My chief of staff and I will be making another call to the White House again today. He was very clear the numbers are the numbers, but they're just not making sense for what they're showing on the website. So we're going to ask for another clarification, and we're going to ask them to take another look at it. 47th isn't where we should be on a per capita basis, and so we'll be making another call today to see what we can find out about the numbers, the allocation, and in the meantime, we're going to continue to do everything we can to get Iowans vaccinated.
Thanks, everyone.